your name and position, please?
Sure, it's Jason Clark, spokesman for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Jason, we're in Huntsville, was preparing for an execution. Bring us up to speed on what's taking place.
Yeah, this afternoon the district court that set the execution date has subsequently withdrawn that date, and so the execution is no longer scheduled at this point. The intent is that it would be rescheduled in 90 days, so a new execution date will likely be set in the first part of January. Did have an opportunity to speak to him shortly after being informed of the stay. He said that, and quote his words, that if this was my day, God's will be done, and he's glad that he gets another 90 days.
Did he make any comment on the controversy that's going on where he was trying to, another prisoner wanted him to take blame for another homicide?
We didn't discuss it specifically. He was certainly aware of the court proceedings and what was happening and why it was happening.
So what's next on his agenda? What's going to happen to him now?
At this point, he's going to be transported back to the Polinsky unit. That'll happen shortly, and then he'll remain on death row until a new execution date is set.
And that's around first of the year.
Yeah, it hasn't been set yet, but it's anticipated that a new execution date will come at the first of the year.
First of all, how was his demeanor?
So I spoke to him just after he was notified that the date had been withdrawn, and he showed very little emotion. What he did say, and these are his words, "If this was my day, God's will be done. He gave me another 90 days." And it was at that point that the team began to pull him out of the cell, and he's now being transported back to death row.
Okay, that's it then. I mean, nothing else as far as anything else he may have said?
I can't go into any of those specific details. Certainly, as you guys know, investigators have been speaking with him and will speak with him, but certainly those conversations are confidential.
Okay. What about how did TDCJ handle the things that were found in his cell? There have been some questions because as the Montgomery County DA talked about the maps, the court documents, the calendars, things like that. How is TDCJ handling that?
Sure. So we work closely with law enforcement, and so if there's a situation where there may be evidence related to a case, we'll work closely with law enforcement to notify them that there may be something relevant in that case, and certainly that took place here.
Any kind of I know it's death row, so there are already, I mean, not much more you can do, but any type of infractions or anything for Swearingen or Shore because of that?
No. Death row offenders are housed in cells that are separate from one another. Certainly they still have the ability at times to shout back and forth. And when offenders get an execution date, they're placed in a special area within death row, and those cells are located near each other.
So that's where both Shore and, because Swearingen's scheduled for next month, right?
So both have had execution dates, and so they would have been held in similar areas there on death row.
And as for the victims' families, are they here? Were they told what happened?
Yeah, the victims' families did make it to Huntsville, and our representatives did let them know that there had been a withdrawal of the execution date.
What were their reactions?
I wasn't with them, but certainly you can understand this is a difficult time for them as well. They traveled to Huntsville expecting to witness an execution, and then at the last moment were notified that there was a withdrawal date. But certainly our representatives are there and working with them at this time.
Now we know that Anthony Allen Shore is a serial killer. He's been granted this 90-day extension. You said he had no remorse?
What I would say is he had little reaction when told of the withdrawal of the execution date. You know, when I spoke to him earlier in the day, and his exact words was, it was a 50-50 coin toss. And so he was aware of the actions, legal actions that were out there. He had spoken to his attorney, and so he knew that there was a possibility that that execution date could be withdrawn. So when he was notified this afternoon, he showed little to no emotion.
Has anybody talked to Swearingen?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I can wait on him if you want.